So I think everybody is muted. I'm going to, if you can, I can see all of you at the moment. If you can hear me, would you raise your hand? So I think, well, those people that I can see, Paula, can you hear me? I can't see your hand. Okay. Okay, there it goes. Okay, and Joni, you guys, yeah. Okay. Well, this is going to be the beginning of an experiment, as I said, because we never tried this before. It's a report on the recent journey in June to Kenya and Rwanda, along with my three friends, Chin Tan, William Bradford, whom we refer to as Brad, Bill Graff, and myself. Bill is on the phone. Chin and Brad are in London, and so it's not a very good hour to do Zoom calls. Chin has been helping me prepare this, and he will also prepare it for a recording. I want to talk about technicalities to begin with. This is a Zoom call, not a webinar, so it's more informal. What was the purpose of the trip? Well, there were really at least four purposes. One is to renew the relationships with our partners, because the center doesn't have staff everywhere. We depend on our colleagues in other countries to run programs. Because of COVID, I haven't been to Africa for a couple of years. So we needed to renew relationships. There's been changes in leadership and challenges there. Second, we need to monitor the programs that the center funds, the donors, so that you know that your money is actually going and doing the things that you want it to do. We wanted to go there. Third, explore new possibilities for service. What can we do to in the future that would be really helpful? What are the needs there that we're not seeing or hearing? And fourth, we participate in educational experiences related to HIV and AIDS, as well as human rights for LGBTQ plus persons. So that's the four purposes. I'm going to be sharing pictures and short reports on everything, but a lot of different things. First of all, just to remind you where Rwanda and Kenya are. The picture there shows Kenya. Rwanda is next to it here. Nearby Uganda, Burundi, Tanzania. When we fly into Nairobi, and then we drive up to Meru. As Joni and Jim would tell you, it's a very short distance mile-wise, but it takes forever to get there. And despite how many new roads the Chinese build, it still takes a long time to get there. We can't seem to make it in less than 4 hours and plus. There's a lot of bumps on the road to slow down traffic and so forth. So while Nairobi and Meru are not very far apart, literally, if it was in the United States, but to get there, it always takes us a long time. Then further is Mawa, which is actually only about an hour away from Meru. It looks a little longer on this particular map. And we'll be talking about Mawa Methodist Hospital and building homes there. And so you get some sense of where that's at. We'll come back and talk about Rwanda later. So first goal, renew relationships with partners. One of the things that's happened in the last couple of years is we have a new United Methodist, not a United Methodist, a new bishop in Kenya, the Methodist Church of Kenya. And that's a picture of him and his wife and little girl. He and I do not know each other, and we're trying to build relationships. And his operating style is different than the previous bishop. And so I'll put it this mildly, some challenges here that we needed to work on. We spent a lot of time in trying to create a memo of understanding because we do invest a lot of money in the Kaga Synod. That's where we have orphans. 361 we've been supporting, along with many other programs. So we spent two rather long evenings in discussion. I won't go into all the things. I might tell you, this might not surprise you, that one of the challenges of working in the African context is that the center is very strong in saying that we do not tolerate any form of discrimination. And while people in other countries will say, and in our own country, will say, oh, we don't discriminate. Once you mention sexual orientation, they have a real hesitation around that. And our agreement does include sexual orientation as well as gender issues and so forth. So we had some long and interesting discussions, and the non-discrimination clause is clearly in the for not only recipients but for employees and others. We are insistent on that because, as you know, our donors represent a large group of people. One of the things they wanted to add was tribe, and we were glad to add tribe. And so eventually we're working on those matters. The very first day we met with some of the 25 post-secondary students. They're standing here, speaking to Bishop Nicholas. We have 25, and I think we met about 15 while we were there. These are supported by individual donors, and about half of them are supported through Ann Fort Kenya Fund. It's Ann's Living Legacy, and it was a marvelous time. I'm going to show you that picture while I talk more, and you can look at it, see some of these young people. These young people, almost all of them, were in the program that we support for HIV/AIDS orphans. They lost their parents at some key point, living with grandparents, and they have gone through school. They've been recommended by Jennifer and Glorie to go on. You know, when you reach 18, you still don't have any money, you still don't have any parents. And so in the past couple of years, we've developed a program that has about 25. Many individuals have stepped forward to provide what we call post-secondary scholars. Some of them are in college, doing 4-year degrees, medical. Others might be in plumbing or computers or a variety of programs. One of the things the late Ann Fort did was, before she died, is she wanted to name this man. I don't know if you can see my marker, Silas. He's finishing his PhD. She made him kind of a mentor to them. She felt they needed to have somebody they could look to, and now they obviously work with Glorie and Jennifer as well. But Silas has been a good influence. I don't know what happened before we got there. If Silas and Glorie and Jennifer had lectured them strongly enough, but they were all extremely grateful. They went out of their way to express gratitude to donors and how happy they were, because scholarships, which range from about $3,000 to $5,000, pay for 4 years of education, pays for their scholarship, their room and board, their books, everything. And without this, can you imagine trying to get an education in America for that price? But they were all a wonderful occasion that we were with them, and took a few pictures so you can see. The youngest is this little boy here. This was Ann Fort's. She's been caring for him and his mother for years and years. So Collins is a cute little guy who's growing up, but Anne wanted to make sure. For those of you who don't know Anne Fort, she died a year or so ago at age 97. She made 73 trips to Kenya. No, I shouldn't say that. She made 19 trips to Kenya after the age of 73. So she was quite an active woman, and she's called Mama Kenya there. So that's some of the scholars and what they're doing, and we continue to get more of those all the time. Next step was to visit the Drug Treatment Center, which had been started by Bishop Catherine while she was bishop. Her 8 years as bishop of that area is over. She is directing a drug treatment center, particularly focused on alcohol, but heroin and other issues. She's finishing up her PhD in counseling. The center in the last year and a half has been through donors. I've been paying her salary, and we've been promoting this particular program. We have a special love and relationship with Catherine because she's an extraordinary woman, and the people there love her very much. She's showing Bill and Brad around, showing a few things that need to be done yet, some work on the facilities. She never misses a chance to build her case as to what needs to be done. She also never misses a chance to say thank you, which is this case. She didn't say anything about this dormitory room, but I thought could be improved myself as I was looking in the door. And this is her staff, and you can see they're quite impressive. We had quite a session with about 20 some of our patients or clients. We can't show any of those pictures, of course, because of confidentiality professional. Several of them spoke about their experiences, how they had ended up there, and one young woman, I think, said she'd been in 7 treatment centers before she got there. Her father never gave up on her and brought her there, and she got help. And, she was quite a speaker, and now engaged in. She's studying at Methodist University, as I recall, which is something that Joni and Jim had a lot to do with getting established. So the work goes on, the legacy continues. Another highlight was Anne Fort had requested that her ashes, some of them, be delivered to Kenya. Her family asked me to bring them there, and I did. And we decided we'd plant them under a tree, and it turns out that she had planted a tree here several years ago, and it was growing. So it was at the bio center where she liked to go. And so we conducted a service of scattering ashes. Frankly, I don't have much experience about scattering ashes, and the Kenyans had no experience at all, but they all said that it was something that's going to happen more and more in Kenya. They're going to have more cremations in the future. So we had a service, and then we buried her ashes that she brought. This again is the young man Silas. You can see here the makeshift altar that we created, and like the song "This Little Light of Mine," so I thought it was real appropriate that they had these little candles burning there. And I invited the scholars, because she was so much interested in them, to help bury the ashes. And they all agreed, all these young people. As it turned out, everybody participated. I could show you lots of pictures. a small bag of ashes, but everybody came forward. The students, little Collins, all the bishops that were, there were three bishops, former bishops present, Ann's driver when she was last in K, everybody came. And then we had testimonies. It was truly, truly beautiful. Then we went on and to Mawa, which is next day. And here, Lorraine, you can see that picture we took of you and Bonnie and I in Park Hill Church, presented it to the midwife, the student that you're supporting there, and met with him for a few minutes on the campus of Mawa Methodist Hospital. He's doing very well according to all reports. It's a beautiful place. He was very excited to meet us, and we were very glad to meet him. He's in his first year, finishing his first year to be a midwife, and we hope to have a second midwife student very soon. Then we, while we're in Mawa, we have 8 homes that are have been paid for this year by donors, and we're hoping that we get at least 10 at $3,000 each. We could only had time to dedicate one. Remember, we're on a 2-week journey, but we're only in Kenya really for 3 days. And a lot of time traveling and more time in Rwanda. But we got down here, and here's Bill in his typical headdress, and the celebration. Getting to this place looks like it might be easy, but any of you who have traveled know that after you, Mawa seems like the end of the earth when I travel there, but then that's only the beginning of the journey as you go past dusty roads. But we were met by these enthusiastic neighbors, all dressed up, singing and dancing. And I'm going to show a video later. In fact, you see that little camera there. If I clicked on that, I'd show that video now, but I might knock us off. So I'm not doing that. I'm not sure what happened to this picture here. Somehow got skewed since this afternoon, but what that was, one of the women who was singing was dramatizing what it meant to lay on the steps and sleep in that house. And this particular house was dedicated to Shirley. It's Strucken, not Stucken. I can't tell you how many times I work on names and how many times we get them wrong, and then we go back and forth. This is the symbolic key to the house here in background. This house up here is a little shack up in this area. In this case, this is the grandmother. If you can see my pointer, and that's the grandchild. She was 12 when her parents died, and she moved into a little shack with her grandmother. And then now this house has been built. This is Stanley, who is supervising it all. A powerful moment comes when we dedicate the house, and everybody joins in the prayers and the singing. And we'll come back to this video in a moment so you can see that. Likewise, I had some videos of singing and dancing at Ann Fort's service, but I'm fearful of playing it right this moment. Other projects in Mawa, Stanley doesn't lack for ideas of what we might do yet. We want a school. He's got this wonderful school started, and these were the children, and we'll look into that. That's one of the things. We did have a school in Nairobi, but we don't have it now. And this one these are not HIV necessarily students who have been impacted, but they're very poor as they live out of Mawa. Another one of Stanley's new ideas is a Little Smile daycare. He's just in the process of opening and was inviting us to invest some funds there in that daycare. there were no children there, but he's getting it ready. Then we returned and spent time with marginalized LGBTQ plus persons. This is a program in outside of Meru. Again, we have to try to protect the participants. This group of men and women have started a farming project. They wanted us very much to visit their farming project, but time did not permit that drive, which was be another hour out and all. But here's a recent picture of the people growing their own crops and working on it. And we think it's a really good idea because of their discrimination they face is very good. I mean, not very good, very bad, and very prominent. The next picture shows the evening we spent with, again, about 15 LGBTQ persons. This is homosexual relationships are criminalized in Kenya, and the church has not been very helpful or positive about this. But increasingly, the younger generation is and leaders in the are beginning to see things differently, and so we try to be supportive. We try to meet with them. We had a great evening together. And why is Bishop Karen Olivedo's picture in here? Well, I've obviously superimposed it, but she's on that FaceTime call. That's why I'm holding that camera. Unlike most bishops I've ever known in my life, and I've known quite a few, she's quite accessible at a moment's notice and is always ready to reach out to people. So when I'm in a setting like that in Africa, I just call her wherever she is, and she answers my call, and we have she enters into a little sermon and dialogue with the people. And I wish I could show you more pictures of the excitement and thrill that they have meeting a religious leader who really cares about them as a person, who can answer their questions, and it brings great hope and inspiration. First did that a few years ago when I was meeting at that time with the only lesbian group, and I'd heard their terrible, terrible stories of how they'd been mistreated by their families and the church and society. And then I told them about how I had a lesbian bishop. They could hardly believe it. And I said, well, would you like to talk to her? And well, yeah. And so I called her and she answered, and she was in some airport someplace, but she answered and spent time responding to questions. So this is a ministry that we try to carry on. It's a big challenge. And yet there's some wonderful, wonderful people who are suffering greatly on the African continent, as well as in our own country and elsewhere. In terms of affirming relationships in Kenya, on the final morning we were there, we had a wonderful time outside the guest house there. I was deeply honored to have Bishop Matthew, who is now 90 years old, had been in a bit of poor health, but he came out and spent the entire morning with us. Former Bishop William Maruki, whom some of you know, Bishop Catherine, and then Bishop Nicholas in that picture. What they did was they planted a tree in my honor, which was very touching and very nice. And I am there talking. We have some wonderful pictures, got pictures of Glorie and Jennifer. Everybody shoveled dirt that day, including Bishop Matthew at age 90. And we're working on it, getting it planted. So I was deeply appreciative of that. And we'll then move on. And we had a program that morning, and we had an opportunity to honor Jennifer for 10 years of service. She's been marvelous director. She took over the program after our beloved Florence died suddenly, and Jennifer stepped up, got training, and has provided tremendous leadership. She reached retirement age. We're not happy that the church insisted on mandatory retirement there because we thought she should be extended. So that was part of our conflict, and continues to be something we're not pleased with. But fortunately, Glorie has stepped up and is carrying on good leadership. But here's when we honored Jennifer. Key leader for the future. This is the Glorie that I'm talking about. She's on the line. So good thing is, see when I'm putting your picture up here, Glorie. Glorie grew up in the program. She lost her parents at an early age, and she has used her personal experience, her training. She's one of the students that got to go on by somebody providing a scholarship, and she's a social worker. She's really a dynamic leader, and we're so grateful for Glorie, and we want to be continue to be supportive of her and the work that she's doing in Kenya. I'm going to take a little pause and put a little advertisement in here. Just remind people that our golf tournament's coming up here, and I'm worrying about getting everything set up August 9th. You can help me recruit some golfers. We still don't have enough golfers, or you can be a sponsor of $1,000 or more, or sponsor a hole. I think we got about 20 of those now. People are coming forth. Sponsor a cart sign for $30, or solicit silent auction items. That's a good idea, or just be a volunteer. So I thought I better put a little advertisement in here. I might, because that's coming up in a few weeks, and I'm getting nervous about that. Let's put it honestly. Okay, back to our trip to Rwanda. We fly into Kigali, and our first events are there, the human rights, our AIDS conference that I'll talk about. And then we go over to Kisenyi for some other events right along the Congo border. So you can see a little bit of Rwanda. Rwanda is a very beautiful country and making great progress after the terrible genocide. And it's the cleanest country that practically I know anywhere in the world. They have some rather mandatory environmental laws, so people pick up their trash. And at least what I've been told is that it's a requirement for everybody in the country to spend half a day every month to clean it. And I tell you, you just don't see trash laying around. It's really, really impressive. So we started with an AIDS conference, which was supported this time. We didn't pay, we contributed to it. Most of it came through the United Methodist Global AIDS Committee and through the Moody Foundation in Houston. But this was a program for pastors and spouses. When we used to do these conferences, we used to do them just for pastors. That we realized after one or two of those that wasn't the best idea. The spouses needed to know about HIV and AIDS, not just the pastors. And while pastors are in Rwanda are also women, most of them are men, it didn't make sense to bring pastors into Kigali and the spouses stay home, and then all of a sudden they come home and they want to be talking about condoms and so forth. It's a little confusing. So in recent years, we've had spouses, and well, you don't think you can see all the babies. There are a lot of babies there too. And this is a terrific event for a couple days there, educating And here's some of the speakers. Woman in the center there is a medical doctor. She laid out all the scientific facts and she was very articulate. This is our friend Augustine Bahati, who's one of the great leaders, young leaders in Rwanda. Over here is a family, and they're talking about the work there, and our colleagues talking at this event. I should say that about this time, Reverend Mark asked the people there, and you saw the picture a moment ago, how many of them had received the food donations that many of you sent during the days COVID was raging. And almost all of them raised their hand that they had been beneficiaries. He asked them how many had gotten health insurance at one point because through donations to the center. Most of them raised their hand. How many had either gotten sheep, pigs, or goats, and we'll talk more about those in a moment. And most of them raised their hands about that too. So it was kind of a way to find out what happened. And again, they're expressing deep gratitude. Then we went on to a human rights conference. That's the euphemism we use, but really it was a conference on LGBTQ plus rights in Rwanda. Rwanda is less oppressive than Kenya, certainly far more open than Uganda. We had participants and spokespersons, not only from Rwanda, but from the Uganda and Burundi and the Congo. This young pastor who of the United Methodist Church has organized what he calls the inclusive mission for health and hope. So he's modeled it a little bit after the Center for Health and Hope, and so he's got the inclusive mission. This woman is the district superintendent in Burundi, tremendous woman, Reverend Valentine. She was returning after she finished there. She was going to go visit a young 18-year-old woman who had been raped and was pregnant and was in the hospital in Burundi. I believe the woman was lesbian, and it was men try to change them. That's how they argue, it's a kind of different kind of horrendous, violent conversion therapy. So we've tried to get some money together to help that young woman. This was a lawyer who spoke extensively about the laws of Rwanda. And here's Brad telling his own personal story to the group. Here's some more pictures of the people. Me and my friends up here in the corner. Some of the participants that we had, the leadership group of retired pastors here sent copies of the book on homosexuality in the Bible. What we're doing is putting stickers in there. This is the leadership team of that human rights conference. So these are the hope of the future. So we feel really positive about the relationships in Rwanda. Fewer people know about that among our donors, but we're really positive. Then we have this Pigs for Pastors program, which we were able to support. The purpose was the pigs give every pastor a pig and their family, and the idea is for some income generation to pay for their health insurance, school fees, and provide nutrition. So here's our good friend Chin tickling the pig. One of my favorite pictures of the trip. And then here's some other pictures of our pigs. what they're like. This is a woman pastor and her son over here. Actually, she was one of the most successful pig raisers we saw. I mean, obviously, we didn't see them all, but her pig population seems to be growing rather rapidly, and she seemed to have everything really well. She's a widow, and I was quite impressed with her. Uh, Not all pigs survive, however, we found out that pigs can be get diseases. They end up being more costly than this day of inflation. They eat a lot. So this couple's pig died. So I went to visit them and told me how their pig died, but they still could sell their pig. So they sold their pig and bought goats with the money from pigs. So they were now raising pigs. Raising goats instead of pigs. So not all our projects succeed. I have to admit that to you donors that we try things. We try to reach out to people in need. Here's one that's really succeeding. It's an inclusive salon. That's what its name is called. It's an economic empowerment program. And these were 3 of the 8 people that are regularly employed. This donors paid for setting this up, and it's working pretty well. And you can see the excitement of they now want a sewing program to go with that. We haven't approved it. We haven't found the funds for it yet, but they're feeling that they next door to the inclusive salon, it would be good to have a sewing program to enable persons who face discrimination and can't get employment in their own countries. Then we also have a journalism student. Most of the students that the center supports, as I've described before, are in Kenya. But we have this young man in Rwanda, and we have a separate program in India with post-secondary students. Delightful young man who had no opportunity until Bahati discovered him and helped him get student. He kind of helped us record the event and participated in the event with us. We were then visited an impoverished community of persons living with HIV. This is a community that the Inclusive Mission is helping through us. And they met us with great enthusiasm. And you can see the villagers all gathered around to talk and listen to us. And we visited various things, but let me show you. The one is the distribution of sheep to persons living with HIV so that they could buy health insurance. And raising sheep. There's a formal contract that they signed with the Inclusive Mission that the firstborn sheep has to be given to another person in the community living with HIV. And so we were there for the passing of one sheep passing a sheep on to the next family. And there were eight sheep that were shared that day. Handing it on. Because not all sheep are the same quality, I guess, or some look better than others or whatever. They numbered the sheep and then they had a drawing so that there was no bias or discrimination as to who got the healthiest sheep. So you can see we're kind of into agriculture. When I started the Center for Health and Hope, I didn't know I'd be into sheep and pigs and goats and all that kind of stuff, but HIV has a lot of ramifications as you try to not only prevent HIV, but to mitigate the consequences of poverty caused by it. So the continuing challenges, as I begin to wrap this up, is to promote for us in these 2 countries, is to promote HIV and AIDS prevention and care, to mitigate the poverty and health challenges of persons living with HIV, to address the stigma and discrimination people face who are HIV positive and or LGBTQ plus. Tonight, I want to thank you for helping us fund these existing programs, for helping us find financial resources for the future so we can help more persons, because together we can make a difference. So I'm wrapping up this, but before I do it, I'm going to go back and see if we can see that video.
And chimney top, let thy peace lie over all. Bless this door that it may prove ever open to joy and love. Bless the people here within, keep them pure and safe within. Bless us all that we may be fit, O Lord, to dwell in thee. And bless us all that one day we may dwell, O Lord, in thee.
We can open it up to chat and questions. Does anybody have any comments they'd like to share? Any questions?
Yeah.
Sue is raising her hand to ask.
Okay.
No, it was
Speak out.
a,
I am I have this terrible noise in back of here, but I should be able to hear you.
it was a wonderful presentation. Thanks so much for doing it, Dawn.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree.
We don't have a camera on. I don't know.
I have a question. This is Sue Yeager.
Sure.
We don't hear much about HIV and AIDS right now. How are we doing as a world as the United States, as Africa's doing? Well, just in general terms.
Yes, COVID definitely has overshadowed HIV and AIDS at the moment. I'll be better able to answer that question in a few weeks because Brad and Chin, Bonnie and I are going to the International AIDS Conference in Montreal later this month. But I do know that there have been great progress made, particularly in the area of treatment.
Yeah.
And in terms of prevention. But COVID has probably set that back because people did not get tested. They couldn't go get tested. They couldn't get their medicines. And there are other problems that COVID created during that period of time. So, and I'm not speaking like COVID is over, but what I think you understand during the time when things were shut down and so forth. So we'll be getting more reports, but initial reports indicate that, you know, more people probably died, certainly more got infected. They didn't have ways to get prevention and so forth during that period of time. There's still no cure. There is no vaccine. And efforts continue on those areas. And the rate of infection in the United States, I don't believe has lowered in recent years very much at all, although the use of PrEP has made a difference on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Thanks, Don, for a nice presentation. It's nice to have an update of what's going on in Africa, and it was beautifully done.
Well, thank you. That's Bert. He's an HIV infectious doctor who's worked for years on HIV and AIDS in America and has traveled with me until COVID intervened India every year. We hope to get back there next March.
Hey, Don, how about Glorie has anything she wants to say right now?
I don't know what you said, but I'm sure I agree with it.
Better. How about Glorie?
How about Glorie? Glorie, can you talk to us?
Yes, thank you, Don.
What would you like Glorie to say? 3 o'clock in the morning. Glorie, share with us.
Thank you, Don, for that opportunity. We were pleased to meet you all, Bill and Chin, Brand. It was a good experience. We shared a lot about the post-secondary students. We thank you for the efforts that you are putting into our HIV/AIDS program. Your effort cannot go unnoticed, and we appreciate everything else that the people and your team is doing. We appreciate so much, and all feel appreciated, and much thanks to you all.
Nice.
Thank you. Jennifer would like to share. Wouldn't that be nice? Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Don, and everyone for inviting me to this meeting. I'm happy. Can you see me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm happy for the gift that I was given, being an honor of my working for 10 years, working with the program. I was so grateful. And I thank everyone who was behind this program, led by Don and the committee there. Highly tired, I'm at home, but with the hope of continuing with my mission in the community where I live and assisting where possible. And I say the work was great because you are behind it. The program, HIV and AIDS program in Kagasinon has been doing good, and many people have been benefiting. And we feel that we have touched the life of our vulnerable children and the young ladies. As I told Dawn, we have more than 1,000 students outside there after completing their education, and now they can sustain themselves and at least earn a living. Thank you for having me. Thank you for what you're doing. God continue blessing you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
to see everybody.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Barbara.
Bye.
So,